Welcome to the Guided Podcast, where we support you to find the courage to listen and act. I'm Amanda Goolsby, and with me is
Allie Katz.
Let's get started.
Hi, welcome. It's Allie. Before you listen to this episode, I wanted to give you a little bit of context because we're talking about some things in the episode that I have been assuming that you already know. And I spoke to a friend earlier today who helped me realize that I should probably lay down a bit of a worldview of mine so that we're on the same page. And that worldview is about soul. And I have a view that says that we are all souls embodied in these beings that we call human beings. And that we are human beings, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And we're also human beings having a spiritual experience. And through many, many, many years of inquiry around what is this life about, what I've come to personally is that this life is about living from soul. It's the only thing that I have found that has been truly fulfilling and satisfying. That all of the achievement and success orientation and proving has only ever gotten me to temporary feelings of success, temporary celebrations that pretty immediately disintegrated into an emptiness that didn't feel satisfying or fulfilling at all. And the only thing that has gotten me to a place of true fulfillment and satisfaction, one where I can actually relax and rest into my being, which I believe all of us want, is to come into relationship with my soul. And I do believe that our souls are infinite beings that travel through many lifetimes. And even if you don't believe that our souls travel through many lifetimes, you might at least be aware that you have ancestors and that those ancestors have given you an inheritance, a genetic inheritance. And science is now beginning to understand epigenetics. There's an amazing book called It Didn't Start With You that helps to really explain this. And I believe that when you are born into your parents, into the legacy that you're born into, which I actually believe your soul chose before you even came here, that you receive this inheritance, these genetics, these epigenetics that are based in a choice made by your soul for its evolution. And that so much of what's happening to you is happening for you. Well, everything is happening for you, specifically for the evolution of your soul. And so I wanted to share that with you because today's episode is about living in your parts. And these parts are, in my world, fragmented pieces of your soul that fragmented during your childhood, or possibly, if you believe so, through past lives or inherited traumas, that fragmented to protect you because you didn't actually have the safety to live fully in your soul, that your soul is really sensitive. And while it's an infinite being, so in one respect, it's not sensitive, it is really sensitive. And it goes into hiding when it doesn't feel safe. And it hides behind these fragmented parts that are the survival strategies that have created our civilization and that keep our civilization going. And that I believe we, our souls, were actually born at this time to heal so that we can actually live from our souls safely, securely, satisfyingly, fulfillingly, and that it is the only thing that will actually fill that hole that lives in so many of us and give us the true joy of life itself. So with that, welcome to the episode. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Guided Podcast. And today we are going to have a short episode that comes directly from the training that Amanda and I just came out of called Luminous. And this module, our teacher, Annalisa Edelberg, said, if you don't feel in love with everything with your heart on fire to serve the world, you are in a part. You are in a part. So let's start by talking about what is a part. Amanda, what's a part?
Well, one of the forms of, I guess, a therapeutic approach in the world of psychotherapy that was developed by Richard Schwartz in the 80s is something called internal family systems. And it focuses on these different parts or sub-personalities that exist within my own individual system, my internal world, internal landscape. So for example, I have a really intense part, as most do, that is like an inner critic. And I've spent many years working with that part. And at times it's more prominent than others. And at times it takes more of a background seat. And ultimately, the process of learning how to relate to our parts is one, knowing that, we are not our thoughts. We are not this aspect of self that is arising within our own experience, but rather we are our infinite self. We are the whole. We are our I am consciousness. However, it's really easy to, when in a trigger, be acting from a part or be speaking from a part.
Well, and I think I would take it even more basic than that and say that for most people, for most of their lives, for most of my life, we are identified with our parts such that we don't even know that they're parts. We believe that they are us. And so, for example, you might have an inner critic that is so loud and constantly harping at you, harassing you, chattering away in your ear. They might call it the monkey mind. And you think that's you. And it is you. It's a part of you. It is not the whole of who you are. And if you listened to the episode, my first SoloCast episode, you'll hear where I spoke about almost dying and having this voice come that saved my life. And my recognition that there was this voice inside of me that was trying to get my attention, that was trying to help me. And that was probably my first recognition that I wasn't that voice, that voice was talking to me and that it had always been talking to me, but it needed to use really harassing language to get my attention because it didn't know any other way. And so once I was able to start to get quiet and listen, I could start to hear, it's not just one voice. There's many voices. Some of them have more wisdom than others. They all are really important because they got us here. They were born out of our survival strategies. They were born out of our childhood or even pre-birth experiences when we were in the womb, potentially even in past lives. If you have an experience of or an awareness of that our souls are infinite beings that go through many lifetimes, then as your soul goes through those lifetimes, it's got all of that experience that is informing you now. And from my worldview is here to be healed, because what we needed to do in our past lives and as children is not what we need in order to be and live into a future reality that is based in health and wholeness and regeneration and what I often refer to as a world that works for everyone. And it is our survival strategies that we have to celebrate because they got us here that are what our parts are made up of. And so many of us are fragmented inside. And the way that we experience this is often in the form of triggers. And a trigger is when a part gets really loud and takes over our experience. At least that's how I experience a trigger, is that one of my parts gets really loud, it takes over my experience, and I am no longer able to be in my witness mind, my observer mind, what I would call my conscious mind, that has very different values than some of my parts. Some of my parts are extremely competitive, not in a healthy way, because there's healthy competition too. They can be extremely taking energy. They want to take because they don't think they have enough, as an example. Whereas like my higher consciousness self knows that I have enough and wants and loves to be in generosity and loves to be in overflow, abundance. And yet if I'm in in a triggered part that is afraid of running out, for example, a part that I've had throughout my life and that I've done a lot of work with through discovering my money dysmorphia and then seeing when it was running the show, then I would make very different decisions. So if you've ever been in a place where you're like, oh my God, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Wait, that's not how I want to be in the world. Why am I acting like that? It's probably because you have a part that is running, and a lot of times your parts can be in conflict with each other. And so if you've ever been in a place where like you can't make a decision, it could be that you have a parts conflict. So you've got one part standing for one value, one part standing for another value, and they're not in alignment. And that could be a very difficult place to be. And there's a movie. What was that movie? Inside Out. So it's a cartoon. You've not seen it. Oh, you've got to see this movie, Amanda. So it's a cartoon of a little girl, and I think she's a little girl, and all of her parts are living out this cartoon. And it's very, very clear when these parts are in conflict. And so our teacher said, let me just go back to it again. She said, if you don't feel in love with everything, with your heart on fire to serve the world, you are in a part or operating from a part, or you could say triggered, such that you cannot zoom out to this higher consciousness, wholeness place where, in her experience, when you are there, you are in love with everything, with your heart on fire to serve the world. So maybe we just pause for a minute and feel into that possibility. Do you believe, Amanda, that I can be in love with everything, with your heart on fire to serve the world?
I do believe that that's possible.
You do believe it's
possible.
possible.
Believe it's possible.
But you're skeptical.
It's not that I'm skeptical. It's that I'm noticing, or I get to notice the part of me that when there's a part that's still arising that cannot be in that place or has not yet been able to come to a place of being in love with everything.
So that must mean that you're in a part.
Must mean that there is a part that is arising when I have some sort of a trigger response or some sort of a discontent happening. And I guess that would be a question of mine, is like, so if Annalisa, our beautiful teacher, is feeling any sort of like discontent, then that means that she's not in love.
No, I don't think that's what she means. So my experience, when I heard this quote, it landed in me. When she said this, it landed in me of like, douche. True. Like, yes, that, because I've touched it. I've touched the place of in love with everything.
On fire to serve the world.
Fire to serve the world. And what I know from that place is that I can also be discontent from that place. The difference is that if I'm discontent from that place, I will love that too.
Yeah, not disown, not judge, not self-abandon. Like you're still you still have in that a level of self-awareness. You're in the observer. You're still having self-compassion. You're still having a level of self-acceptance while experiencing whatever it is that's arising.
That's right. And so it isn't an either or. It's a both and we can accept and love every single part of us, including the ones that feel shame and fear and guilt and scarcity. And we can love everything, including those parts, at the same time. And I think that is, for me, the highest state of, for a long time throughout my life, I've been in this question of like, what is enlightenment? What is it? What is it? I want it, but what is it? And I've had tastes and I've had glimpses and I've had moments where like, oh, that's it. That's what it is. It's this place where I actually remember who I am. And when I remember who I am, I remember that I am the consciousness I am. And I'm also in this body, living this human experience. I'm also a human having this very human experience, which is really challenging. We live in this very dense world. And I believe it's the case, and I think it's why we're in the school that we're in, because we want to live more of the time, if not eventually all of the time, in the awake awareness of in love with everything, heart on fire to serve the world, while loving all of our parts at the same time. Does that seem true?
Seems true.
So then what happens when you wake up in the morning and you're in a grumpy part?
I would say my part that tends to come up in the morning more is it's more like the inner judger.
What does it say?
You're not doing enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not doing enough. I mostly get that one when I go on vacation. I don't really get it in the morning because I'm clearly doing enough in the morning. But I do get it on vacation. Am I forgetting to do something? Am I holding all my responsibility? Am I letting people down? I think for me, it's why systems are so critically important. Like without systems, I don't know if I'm doing enough. But with systems where I'm very clear on what my goals are and what my responsibility is to reach those goals, then when that part comes up, I have an objective measure that I know isn't just my reactive, emotional or triggered self feeling bad about myself, replicating old patterns that are from my childhood that aren't even real. I can actually measure, am I doing enough?
And what is enough?
Well,
like I'm saying, you've already identified by setting some core objectives. You've identified, okay, this accomplished in this amount of time would feel like a win to me.
Yeah, I'm choosing. I very, very, very clearly and intentionally choose my goals, and I choose them annually, quarterly, monthly, and then I'm holding myself accountable to them weekly and daily so that I can objectively meet that part that says, are you doing enough? With soothing that says, yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm doing enough. I hear you. You're scared. You're scared if I don't do more that we're going to be abandoned or hurt, or at one point, a bag lady on the street. I moved through that one. I don't tend to have that anymore. But at some point I did. And then I can soothe myself because I've created these left brain logical structures to hold me in the triggers when they arise so that I can create that safety for myself. So that's what I wish for all of you, is first of all, to listen to your parts.
And to even just start, one thing that I would say was really helpful when I initially started hearing about parts work and internal family systems, but had not yet worked with a practitioner, is to even just start having awareness and to start speaking by using the language of a part of me is feeling, rather than saying I'm mad, because you're not mad. A part of you is mad. I'm pissed off. I'm so pissed off. No, a part of you is pissed off. And so even just beginning to have awareness, to shift the language, to realize that inside of you are all of these parts that are opposing at times, that there is the part of you that is super self-judgmental or hypercritical. There's the part of you that is maybe the inner child. There's the part of you that is the
sad and scared.
That's sad, that part of you that has repressed anger. And so just to even start to become more aware, and, maybe in this moment to ask that question is if I were to tune in and get connected to my inner world right now, what might be the part that I'm experiencing? Or when I'm in my next situation of a trigger, can I identify in that trigger situation? Because this conversation today started by, am I triggered? What's the trigger? Where is the trigger? Is in that next situation, just to become a little bit more aware of, oh, wow, what is this trigger? What is this triggered part? Oh, it's the part of me that's scared that if I don't say yes, that I'm going to lose love. The abandoned part.
And if you can start to give your parts names, that's also very useful. When I first began to work with parts, I gave these parts names. I had cold Alexis and warm Alexis. I had cold Allie and warm Allie. It's not very creative names. Some people give their parts really creative names. I think I had a part at one point that I called Smelly Melly. That's vulnerable to share. And so if you can give them names so that you can start to identify them within yourself and not as them. And maybe you can give the observer part of you that is aware of these parts a name as well. So my observer part, I call oneness. Oneness is the I am consciousness that lives inside of me. Oneness is in love with everything and has a heart on fire to serve the world all the time. Oneness lives inside of me as much as these parts do. And the more I can engage with life at the level of oneness, the more I can actually care for all of my parts in a very healthy adult way as the adult that is taking care of these little ones that really didn't get what they needed throughout my life. And you could do the same in your journaling. You can begin to write from your parts instead of as your parts. And I really like that exercise, Amanda, starting to shift the language. I'm mad. A part of me is mad. And then get into contact with that part. Okay, hey, part that's mad. What are some questions you might ask of that part?
What do you want me to know?
Mm-hmm. I want you to know that you're getting taken advantage of. That's what I want you to know. I want you to know that you're getting taken advantage of. And then you get to talk back to that part. I hear that you're really scared. We've been taken advantage of in the past. And if I don't listen, it's going to happen again. And so it makes sense that you're mad.
What are you here to teach me?
I'm here to teach you not to get taken advantage of. Okay? That part that is mad doesn't have the answers of how not to get taken advantage of. It can raise the red flag. And then your adult part gets to look at what boundary am I crossing that could lead to us getting taken advantage of? How do I start to hold a boundary in a more clear and direct way? And so there's a lot of learning for you when you begin to get in contact with these parts. And this is just opening the door. As we promised, this is a short episode. I would love to hear your thoughts about your parts, whether you're already in contact with them, whether you know them as parts, or if you're still identified with them. What's the best way for people to share their experience with us, Amanda?
Send us a message directly on Instagram at Guided the Podcast on Instagram.
Or better yet, post on one of the episodes. This one, when we post it.
Comment
share some comments there. Let's get into a conversation. We are so appreciating all of the messages that we have gotten already. One of Amanda's clients sent a message that she had listened to every episode while in the garden, and that felt so good to read. And several of those of you in my lawyer community have sent notes in our private Facebook group. Thank you. It feels so good to know that this is impacting you in such a positive way. And it makes all of my parts really happy to hear. And the next thing is I would love it if you are loving this podcast, if you would go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review, or on Spotify, both actually. Give us a rating on Spotify. Those are the two places that we show up, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'd love your reviews. And we'd love to see the conversation start on Instagram at Guided the Podcast.
Thank you so much for listening today, for really being here with us on this journey while we bring forth conversations that we're having in our own lives, in our own development, in the programs and the transformational work that we're doing, and bringing this conversation forward to you. It means the world to us that we have the opportunity to show up and serve, and that this is one form of us being able to show love from our hearts to yours through this act of service. So, Allie, thanks for being my co-host.
Thank you. I love you so much.
We love you guys. See you all next week.
Bye for now.